1. Independent Showcase Season 5 episode I have no clue is basically where we are at the minute. We've been everywhere in this season. We've been in the UK, we've been to America, we've been to Australia, we've been to Scotland, and now we're coming back to the UK. Now, those of you that have seen an interview recently that or that dropped on the channel from Independent Showcase will know that we spoke to Victor Rotten recently from Alternative World Wrestling. Well, now we've got somebody else from Alternative World Wrestling joining us. We're unleashing the Screwball on us. Hello, sir. How are you doing?
Hello, thank you for having me. It's an absolute honour to be on here.
It's a pleasure to have you on. I love these episodes because, obviously, as everybody knows, we do have an allegiance in Brit Rest with Ignite Wrestling and our championship. And it's always great to have new people on because it gives me, let's not beat around the bush. It's a bit of a scouting mission for me as well because I get to look around and, we got a championship. We have a breakout division as well at Ignite that we're always looking for people to show up on. So it's great to have interviews with the peoples like yourselves because I get to know new people and I get to watch new people, and then from there we anything can happen. Who knows? But anyway, long-winded in welcome to the show. Listen, for people that don't know about Screwball, who you are and your character and what style you do in the ring, shoot.
So, Screwball is a high energy, chaotic rhythm machine. When I first debuted about 18 months ago, I was pretty much your standard underdog, like smiling underdog and everything. And then towards the end of last year, I shifted towards more of a punk rock drummer style. So
Yeah.
I wound up changing I changed my gear in a way, but kept it consistent to the character and what I'd already had as kind of like an evolution. So when I first started wrestling, I would have come out in a sleeveless blue hoodie
Yeah.
and red tights with chevrons, kind of similar to Tyson Kids.
Yeah.
And as I made the transition from like character to character, I kept like the red tights, but had like a bit of more of a different design, but keeping the chevrons and keeping the blue hoodie, but with more of a distressed effect to try and keep like you can see where the character's gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Screwball is a very like I'd say I'm more of a traditional high flyer,
Yeah.
but I am like beginning to test what I can do and experiment with more like high risk offense.
With high flyers nowadays, and like I feel as if now we've got more companies over in the States, we get to see a bit more of them showcased. I feel like some companies will showcase, your heavyweights, your bigger guys, and they can still do that. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like now we got like an AEW with TNA back on the rise. You're seeing them a bit more, but we're also seeing a bit more like on Raw this week at the time of recording we saw a great lucha libre match between Penta and Dragon Lee, which was like I hadn't seen a proper lucha libre match really since the old WCW days. Do you think
Mhm.
nowadays, with there being more promotions out there, there's more variety, we're going to get to see more of the high flying stuff?
Yeah, so I with high flying currently, I think it's in a weird position because I think at times when spot wrestling gets criticized, I think high flying wrestling gets in a way hindered by that. So people will see traditional high flying and consider it spot wrestling, which I don't think is particularly fair on that kind of style. Um, but with TNA currently the X division and
Yeah.
as you said with AEW, they're having quite a lot of like high flying slash lucha libre style matches, especially with CMLL's partnership with AEW. So it's good to see it emerging again, as we had like with a breakout within the 2000s with the X division in TNA. So it's good to see it. It's good to see it re-emerging in like such a strong way where it's not as criticized so much.
Yeah, definitely so. And obviously, look from the Midlands, you say you wrestle a lot for Alternate World Wrestling, but the Midlands is obviously synonymous with people like Dan Maloney and the Hunter brothers, and we've had the Hunters on the show before with my colleague David. Um, Talk about wrestling in the Midlands now. Listen, the wrestling in the UK, it's kind of has it got back to pre-pandemic levels? I don't know, but it feels like right now the abundance of talent working in Brit Rest is it's surprising me. I've got well, say I've got a wrestler. There's a wrestler in the Brit Rest right now called Tommy Tanner who's been wrestling
Mhm.
probably about the same, maybe a bit less than what you have. And he come out of Darren Burridge's school, and he said to me, I watched one of his first matches, and I was like, Jesus, how long? You must have been wrestling a while. And he was like, No, 6 months. And what he can do
Mhm.
is incredible. Is the amount of training available now? Are we going to see another sort of big boom? Do you think in terms of people perhaps getting contracts elsewhere?
Oh, I think easily. I think Brit Wrestling currently is in such a strong position because when you go back to like the early days of it, you'd only hear about like maybe one or two big names in Brit Wrestling that would be making waves across the industry. So you'd have like your Fit Finley, your Winning Regal, you have your Bulldog, and then I think that kind of like it seems to be coming in stages, and each stage you seem to have more people than the last that's getting more traction. So like in the mid 2000s you'd have like Mastiff, El Ligero, Martin Kirby, Chris Travis, and now with the situation currently with British wrestling, you've got Joe Lando, you've got Charles Crowley, Liam Jones, and Will Cruz, just like name a few. And they're people, if they're not doing it full time already, with the state of Brit Wrestling, they could easily take it that far.
Yeah, not also Dries as well. We can't forget man like Dries who's
Derice, yes.
up that way as well. Let's talk about you. Were you a wrestling fan growing up, or is it something that come later on down your life?
I started watching wrestling when I was 8 years old, and it's just something I've never been able to shake. Like it's always been there for me, and it's 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 just like the best thing for me. I just can't explain it. It just took my interest as a kid, and since I was 8 years old, I was like, I want to be a wrestler. I want to do this, and to be able to do that now, it's incredible.
It must be. I mean, I probably about the same. Obviously, we're different ages, but we started watching wrestling at probably around maybe I was about six, maybe when I managed to. I remember WrestleMania 6, Warrior and
Mm.
Hogan. That probably gives away. Put it this way, I can tell my age, whatever WrestleMania it is how old that I am. So every year WrestleMania gives me a poignant reminder that I'm getting old, if anything else. But when you were growing up, obviously, look, you mentioned lucha, you high flying, and we sort of mentioned lucha libre there. So was it the Hardys? Was it Rey Mysterio? Where was your allegiances when you were watching it?
Growing up, I was a massive Jeff Hardy fan.
Yeah.
Um, I had my ninth birthday ruined because of Jeff Hardy.
Oh, tell us
So
more.
when Jeff Hardy was having the feud with CM Punk in
Yeah,
2009,
yeah,
do you remember the loser leaves
yeah. Loser
WWE
leaves.
Steel Cage match?
Yeah, I do.
That
Yeah, yeah.
aired the day after my ninth birthday, where I got given wrestling belts, Jeff Hardy action figures, the pendants, and I was sat in front of the TV, bawling my eyes out at that.
Was that the one where Punk come out on SmackDown the next next week in the
Yeah,
yeah with the paint, and it was one of like the best look. I think the one that was probably on par with that was when Kevin Owens come out as Steve Austin when
yeah,
he had the
definitely.
bald bit on his head. That was like but Punk was the best one on there. I've met Jeff Hardy.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, I annoyed him though because when I met him. I got him to sign the rated R spinner belt, which is pride of place in my room, which is signed by Edge eventually. But Jeff Hardy was the first person to sign it, and I
Yeah,
jokingly said to him, "You're never going to win this title." But I didn't mean it in a way that you're not going to win the title. I just meant you're not going to win
yeah.
this title because it's Edge's, not your like. But he didn't like that anyway.
Oh,
But yeah, I met him. I met him. Did I meet him twice? Did I? I don't know if I met him once or twice. I've definitely met him once because his name's on the championship as well as RVD's and Edge's. But Jeff Hardy was always a fan favorite. Even when he turned in TNA, it didn't quite work. It was like one of those when Austin turned heel. at WrestleMania. It
Yeah.
didn't quite have the same, he was still getting pops everywhere, and Jeff would be the same. How much of your style is based on Jeff Hardy? There's you're a high flyer.
Um, I'd say a relative amount because I think Jeff Hardy was more of a obviously when he came into like the wrestling scene, high flying wrestling isn't nowhere near what it is now.
No.
So he was what I'd consider now as like more of like a traditional high flyer,
Mm.
and I do take a lot of inspiration from Jeff, as well as John Morrison, Rey Mysterio,
Mhm.
and even some people who you might not even reconsider as like full high flyers like Johnny Gargano. I
Yeah, I
take
get it.
I try and see what pieces of like offensive work for people and think how can I make this make sense for me instead of just doing it for the sake of it. How can I make this mean something to Screwball?
It's interesting because you're obviously still watching and learning it now because you mentioned Johnny Gargano. I know he's been around the block quite a few times, but is that something when you're watching? Because when I watch wrestling, I'm very tunnel vision. You won't see me cheer or boo. I'm very tunnel vision. I'm trying to watch little bits and pieces. So are you watching wrestling in a way as a fan, but you're also watching it in an element of Screwball, thinking, how can I make that or turn that into a move that I can use in my arsenal?
Oh, definitely. I I'm very like locked in when I'm watching it because I want to enjoy it for like the sake of a fan
Yeah.
and also as a wrestler I'll look at something and be like how can I make this something similar but different as a way to like that would make a lot of sense for me, but in the same way, not look like I've just blatantly ripped it off and stolen it for the case of it being like, the move of the month or something.
Like a bit like a cutter is now,
Yes.
right? The cutter's the most overused move I've seen in ages. Now, I mean, it was super kick was, and now the
Hmm.
cutter seems to be coming in. When you started training, how long was it when you from your first training session? Did you then start going? Actually, I've got you because obviously, look, we all go to we all want to be wrestlers, right? I wanted to. I tried. It took about a month, but I realized there was no chance of me ever becoming that wrestler. How long did it
Hmm.
take you from moment one to then sort of think, hang on a minute, that I've actually got this? This is something I can actually do.
Um, I think in my head, I thought it the second I walked through the door because
Yeah.
of like a pure excitement.
Yeah.
I still, at this moment, still am trying to figure out the answer to that question, really, because I still don't think I'm as good as I could possibly be. Because I mean, there's no such thing really as a perfect
No.
wrestler. So I'm still trying to figure out like how I can make myself even better than I currently am, if that makes sense.
No, it makes full sense. That's a great answer. A lot of people say, "Oh, I knew at this, there was this specific moment, or after a couple of sessions that, hey, I could do this." I was speaking to someone a girl from Scotland last
Mm,
week, and she basically nearly pinpointed a point where she was like, "Yeah, this is something I could actually do." She's still learning, obviously, to this day, but
yeah.
she pinpointed near enough an exact spot, which is good. But talk about alternative world wrestling for us. When did you make your debut there, and just talk to us about that promotion in particular?
So I made my debut on September the 7th, 2024. I was opening the show in a fatal four-way match for the inaugural AWW Hardcore Championship, which I currently hold.
Yay.
Um, that night, that show in general was just pure electric. The crowd was just like you couldn't describe it, and the atmosphere during that match was it. It still gets me when I think about it. Like I can still remember the moment like coming off the stage and high fiving the fans, and it was like reality hit me all in that one moment. But alternative wrestling world, it's our shows currently they're amazing. We went through a venue change last year, which meant a bit of new getting used to, potentially new fans, like
Hmm.
new environment. But the company in general, it's going from strength to strength currently. The roster is fantastic, to say the least. There's so many underrated talents on that roster who could be so big in this industry, in my own opinion. and with the training facilities we've got and the coaches, it's next to none.
Talk to us about the change in Minex. You mentioned that they changed venues. Now that's always a concern. And listen,
Mhm.
we've not at Ignite and haven't changed venues, but I know people that haven't. You mentioned there about the concern, and also about new fans. And as a wrestler, when they say to you, like, we're gonna move venues, was there an element of trepidation from you to think, "She's, we've got to now try and build this fan base back up"? What was going through your mind at that point?
So there was a slight bit of concern, um, but I think it was just like the uncertainty of like, oh, it's a new place. We won't see this place until show day and everything.
Yeah.
Um, we don't have a stage at this current venue, which took a lot of getting used to for me personally because I would use the stage quite heavily during my entrance.
Mm.
With the fans, I think we managed to retain a good chunk, maybe probably about 75-80% of what we already had because we only moved about 10-15 minutes down the road.
Ah, okay.
But there was always that like slight bit of concern. But I think the company and the wrestlers have made it work perfectly.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, from what I've heard, I always hear good things about. I was saying we were talking before we started, and I said we had Adam Jones on the Smiler prior. I think prior to the heel. I don't know if he was heel or face. I know he is heel now. I'm pretty.
Mhm.
Well, he was heel. And he come on the show a good few years ago now. 'Cause my co-host David lives in Tipton,
Okay.
up that way. And I think he may have been to see a show. He may have been to see one of the AW. I'll have to ask him when we do our review this week. But you mentioned that first show for the four-way hardcore match, which for now you hold that championship, which is great. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Um, Go talk us through that kind of those moments leading up to you coming out of the curtain. I know obviously when wrestlers are out of the curtain, they're exercising, they're doing their last little bits. They're
Mhm.
sometimes they're even going over bits and pieces and spots during that. Talk me through that bit from moment where you're starting the show. They've the MC welcomes to the crowd. Let's bring out wrestler number one, or the first match scheduled for 1-4 is a fatal four-way match for the hardcore championship. Your music hits. What's going through your mind?
So I was the last person in the four-way to come out through the curtain, which was just it made me quite nervous, but I can understand it. So the gap between I think it was Anarchy who came out before me.
Mhm.
The gap between his music ending and mine starting. I've watched the footage back, and it's probably about 10 seconds
Yeah.
of like silence, but it felt like an eternity.
Yeah.
And I was just stood there, just trying to see if this was all real because it just didn't feel real to me. Like this is something I'd wanted since I was a little kid, and to finally have the opportunity to do it, it just felt really surreal to me. And then when I heard the first riff of my music kick in, it just kind of it brought me back down to earth and just made me realize like okay, like it's now. And then going out through the curtain itself, and like I used to steward and do like odd sods and everything
Mm.
before I debut. So obviously I was at the shows
Yeah.
beforehand, but to then come out on the stage and see the whole place from a different perspective, it was insane to see like a sea of people, and it was just honestly the feeling you get throughout it, like you can't describe it.
I mean, I've, again, I've not done what you've done and come out the curtain in terms for a wrestling match. I've come out the curtain for Ignite to make an announcement, and that for
Mhm.
me was probably one of the most, pretty much like yourself there, the surreal moment that, for, just by hitting that from the music and just walking out. It wasn't even my music; it was it was the promoter's music that hit, but just coming out there, that buzz, the feel, the energy, the everything. But coming out there, and you had a hardcore match. So, come on, what weapons were used during Zed hardcore match?
So there was a bin which I got hit on the head with. There was bacon trays which I also got hit on the head with. There was a stop sign which I hit a coast to coast to Gasman who was in the match.
Yes, yeah,
Um, that was like my big high spot of the match.
yeah.
Um, I personally brought a pinata, and I was backstage with this pinata, and I was going to them like, okay, I've brought for my match, and they'd be like, a pinata, and I'd be like, yeah, shake it, and they'd shake it, and their face would change, and they'd be like, is that Lego in there? I'm like, yep. So I took a pinata full of Lego, which I also wound up half going on to with Gasman. I had a Japanese arm drag to him, and luckily I was wearing the hoodie, so it wasn't as bad. And there was also a table which I then got choke slammed through.
Great way to introduce you to the world of wrestling, right?
Oh, it was amazing.
It's, it's incredible. That is something to tell, like, your kids and grandkids later on about your first ever wrestling match. You had a pinata with a Lego, you got hit over the head with a baking tray, hit over the head with a trash can, and choke slammed through a table. Don't get much better.
It was amazing.
That is an incredible first match. But in all seriousness aside, when you did win that championship, when maybe not the first time, well, now you are the champion, and when they
Mhm.
told you, look, we're going to put this championship on you, there's a bit more response. I always think that being a champion, especially with an independent show, regardless of whether it's the heavyweight champion, the tag champion, or whatever
Mhm.
championship that they have, there's always that bit more pressure because you're kind of pinning it on you, not say pin it on you in terms of, but you're going to be one of the main reasons people come in to see the show. They want to see the
Yeah.
champions, right? So when they tell you that you're winning this match, again, do you get more anxious? Do you get the excitement? Is there that concern that if things don't start working out now, is it my fault? How did you approach that?
I went into it with the headspace of I'm being given the ball here. I need to prove that I can run with it.
Yeah.
I know I was coming out of the title win last year. I was trying my best to like help mentor and do whatever I could really for any trainees that needed anything. So
Yeah.
like try and be more like kind of a role model in a sense, just to be like, this is what hard work gets you and everything. Trying my best to help trainees and everything. I mean, at AW we are quite like a cooperative bunch. Like we will happily give each other feedback, criticism, and help each other further develop.
Yeah, it's good. I like that. I like the fact that you do that as well. It's always nice when you always got to have constructive criticism to everybody. I mean, no match is going to be that perfect match. There's always going to be something
Yeah.
that gets done. Right, we're going to start by asking some random wrestling questions now, which is always fun. They always try and get your brain in gear when we do this sort of stuff. Now, for those of you that know, sometimes I do tell the person, and sometimes I don't tell the person. Well, Screwball will tell you that I haven't told him any of
Nope.
them. So he's coming into this fresh. So, look, big part of wrestling is theme music, right? You've got your own theme music. People have their own iconic theme songs out there. But if I asked you for your Mount Rushmore of wrestling theme songs, what is going to be on your Mount Rushmore?
So I would put Jeff Hardy's No More Words.
Hmm.
I would put CM Punk's This Fire Burns. I
Okay.
have really big nostalgia for that song and I can't explain it.
Okay.
Um, I'd say Brock Lesnar's music because it's just got that much aura about it.
Hmm.
Like you know that like something big's happening when he's there.
Hmm.
And like the music's just like it's almost like summoning him. And as a bit of a niche one here, I really like Ravishing Rick Rude's WCW theme.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
Yeah,
Wow.
I heard it a couple years ago. It just came up on my Spotify. I don't know if it's Spotify or YouTube actually, but it came up and I listened to it, and it was an earworm in such the worst way. But I think it's just amazing for the character, so it makes perfect sense.
You'll be surprised to know that's the first time that's ever been, I say unsurprised, and that's the first time I've ever heard someone say that as a theme
Oh,
song,
nice.
which is interesting. A lot of the Jeff Hardy No More Words comes around a little bit. Punk's This Fire Burns has done as well. Lesnar's, that was the first one, but I get your point. And a lot of wrestling music, like you always say, it's like you know what's going to come, right? The glass
Yeah.
smash with Stone Cold, the gong of the Undertaker. even the Roman Reigns beginning of his old the tribal chief, not the necessarily the one now, but the tribal chief one. It doesn't need a words. It you just know, and
Yeah.
and that's in it. So I do get your point with the Brock Lesnar one. I'm gonna do Screwball's table for free now. So you get to have three wrestling personalities, past or present, living or dead, at this dinner table that you can just basically chew the ear off for an evening. What three people are you going to choose?
Three people am I picking? I would probably pick Bryan Danielson,
Good, like that.
AJ Styles,
Nice.
and I'd also pick Chris Parks Abyss just because I think he's got that many good stories he could probably tell.
Yeah, that's interesting. Abyss, I remember the first time I met Abyss, he was getting out of a van. So at the ill-fated, what was the 1PW that a lot
Mm,
of people will know about. Their very first show was called a Cruel Twist of Fate. They was meant to have Matt Hardy. He got because he was released from WWE with the issue with or Adam Copeland at the time.
mm.
He got rehired, so he pulled out of the event, and he was meant to be him versus Abyss, and it turned out they brought AJ Styles over instead to replace him, and he got out of a van, mask off, and it was just crazy to see him without the mask. But that was my encounter with Chris Parks, or as we know him as Abyss. So the third question is a slightly different. Well, no, it's still the same. It's on the same feed. But if you could have a band play you out at a show, what band would you want to play you out?
It would be a toss up for me currently between either All Time Low or Water Parks, just based on the fact that they are two of my favorite bands. I've got tattoos for both the bands, and before I debuted and I did a academy show for AWW, kind of just like three matches just to show off like the trainees and everything in the unit. I came out to an All Time Low song for my entrance, and that was going to be my theme until 3 weeks before I officially debuted, and then it got changed. So I'd pick either of those two.
Fair. That is fair. If Screwball had a movie, who would play him? And what actor would you have play you in the film?
Oh, I'm guessing logically I'd say Tom Holland's just
Yeah.
because you can maybe make the argument, but I would just really like to see Jack Black give it a go.
This is going to sound, but that's who I had in my head. So
Amazing.
you've literally read my mind when you said that, which was quite. I don't know if that's freaky or not. If you could have a fatal four-way, so you and three others, one person has to be from Brit Rest, the other two can be anywhere else. Like so, for example, AWW said right, AAW sorry said no AWW sorry said you're gonna have a fatal four match. Budget isn't the problem, but one has to be from Brit Rest. Who in Brit Rest are you choosing? Who's the other two?
um, I'm gonna keep it very high flying orientated. So I'm gonna have Desmond Xavier and Zachary Wentz from the Rascals,
Nice.
and I will throw. I would throw people from AWW in, but I've worked with quite a lot, so I'm gonna throw Joe Lando in there.
Good old Lando. I love Lando. He's a great guy. Lots of shows I've been on with Lando. He's as you said, the guy needs to be signed somewhere. Well, actually, he doesn't yet because he's scheduled to appear at Ignite soon, so he can't be signed just
He
yet.
he is everywhere currently. I'm seeing like that much that he's doing currently, and like he's putting videos of him training everything. The guy is insane.
He really is. Apart from the fact he's an Arsenal fan, he's a great guy. We'll leave that bit for now. Right, the last bit is Cluedo. So those of you that know what Cluedo is, it's a murder mystery, right? You have a victim, you have a room, and you have a weapon. Who in wrestling are you murdering the kayfabe guys, not really, but murdering in what room and with what weapon?
Um, because of what he did to me the last show, I'm gonna murder the gas man.
Yeah.
Because so out of context, last show he attacked me after our match and put me in a body bag.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, and then just took me off into the night. So I'm gonna get my revenge on Gasman.
Yeah.
Um, weapon, I will find a way to use the Lego pinata that I previously mentioned,
Yeah.
and the room. Uh, I'll do the kitchen because then I can have a beer afterwards.
Yeah, that's fair. I like that. I like that. We're going to start to wrap up now, Scribble. But before we do, what sort of goals, if any, do you set? Have you got like a big goal, or do you set little goals, or is it just we roll with the punches?
So I've tried to set myself a bunch of um like small goals since
Mm,
I've debuted, just as like an incentive. Um, so I've managed to achieve one of them recently. I travelled up to Sunderland
mhm.
and made my debut for UWA on their first ever show. Tremendous.
Lovely.
So I try and set like smaller goals with obviously like the big goal of to do this full time.
Yeah.
But until I can get to that point, I've worked my way through the smaller goals.
Yeah, that's lovely. That is really, really good. Right, before we go, where can people find you on socials? Where can people book you? And finally, I know that there's maybe some stuff you can announce and some stuff that you can't announce, but where are people going to be able to see you in the ring?
So people will be able to see me in action uh, this Saturday, 21st of March, for Alternative Wrestling World at Luxor events. Following that should be the 11th of April at the same venue for Alternative Wrestling World. I am available on pretty much all social media. So Facebook, I'm under Project Screwball. Instagram, I am at moshpit_screwball. And TikTok, I'm at hi, hello, it's Screwball. My emails for bookings are there, so I'm able to be reached through that or through direct messaging, whatever's easiest for people. And the email that I can respond to is screwball682@gmail.com.
So if you want some high flying action on your show with a little bit of hardcore as well, there's your man to do it. I need to do some plugging quickly now. May 3rd, bank holiday weekend. Why don't you come and spend it down at Boreham Wood? Ignite Wrestling presents the end game. Well, didn't we have a lot of stuff happen at the last show? We're going to have all the fallout. The fallout from the fallout of the rebellion after the everything that happened in the ring, out the ring, and in the foyer with General Manager CJ Carter, Taylor James, Tom Mercer, and Ryan Curran. Also, we have the Turnbuckle Championship match. Chris Aries' first defense of the Turnbuckle Championship, or shall I say, Mr. Happy. He is like the comet, he smiles every 2,000 years. You would have thinking that being the Grand Slam, the first and only Grand Slam champion at Ignite, he would smile, but nope, we still can't get a smile out of him yet. But he may be even more reason to be angry on May the 3rd if he were to lose Z Championship against Denzel Mack, who's going to be his first opponent. We've also got the breakout where we're going to see. Now, if you want people like this man right here, when I say people to watch out for in the future, Screwball is one of them. These two kids that we've got, and I say kids in the abrupt, we're about 18, 19 years old at the end game that are going into the breakout tournament. Both from Cobra Wrestling Academy with Sky Smithson, and one of them is also a part of the DKW Academy as well. It is AJ Payne versus Regan Blade. Remember the names, people. Also on that show, we're going to have Tommy Kyle versus Jaden Williams versus Corey McRae. And there's going to be some more matches to be announced as well. The former Turnbuckle champion, Aluna, will return after having to relinquish her championship. You can see there that she's not got a title shot. Chris Aries wasn't going to give her one straight away. She's going to earn it, was his words. So who's she going to go against? I don't know yet. We'll have to wait and see. And the main event at Ignite is that aforementioned Tommy Tanner one-on-one with the man who we've all been speaking about quite a lot in this show, Joe Lando. Will be competing to see if he can, well, get the championship off of Tommy Tanner in his first defense after beating Taylor James in the last show. 96 Eventbrite for your tickets. Where can I get tickets for AWW? Do you know?
Eventbrite.
Same place, two companies. Go and get your tickets there. Coming else on the show, Eddie Edwards from TNA. Thank you very much for your interview. That was fantastic. AJ Francis being AJ Francis. You can go and see that. So there is now a special playlist. If you go down to TNA exclusive, now is the playlist. You'll see them all there from our first one with the Decay right up until the last one with Eddie Edwards, who's been on there 3 times, I know, but there you go. Moose is on there, Leon Slater's on there as well. Go and check that out. Loads of other stuff. We've had a lot of these independent showcases. The Vision, Orion, who was trained by Alistair Black and Selena Vega. His was a great interview. Jake Christ, who was a former TNA star, his interview's now just dropped as well. And we're going to have coming up PW Back to Pro Wrestling Australia and the Melbourne City Wrestling Champion, who was born in Grimsby and had his first match in Apex Wrestling. Robbie Thorpe will be on the show, and of course I can get to call him Uncle Eric now, but you guys can't yet. Eric Bischoff will be on the show really, really soon for his 4th appearance on the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. We're looking forward to that. And of course, Rosie Knight has just dropped as well, the lady from Scotland. Go and check that out. And obviously make sure you're checking this one out when it drops. I'm sure you will, because you'll be watching it along with us. But Screwball, it's been great talking to you. Thank you for taking up some of your time to talk to me. And we look forward to seeing what's next for you. And who knows, we've got a breakout division and a championship that you may want to come for in the future.
The email's there.
The email is there. CJ Carter, the email is there. You just heard it from Screwball himself. But from Screwball, from me, Adam Cousins, you've been watching the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. Follow us, HTT Buckle, everywhere. But until next time, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, and good night.